So Torchlight Infinite looting system is currently one of the major promotion material used for marking the ARPG. After my time during the first two closed betas, and currently the beta that we're in right now, I think I have a decent understanding on how the looting system works and the main challenges that may come with most ARPG looters. And in this video right now, I would try to explain it in the different forms of dealing with the looting experience in Torchlight Infinite in my own way. This is not going to be any official guide, but I think from the multiple times of me playing Torchlight's closed beta, I have a decent understanding to help other people not do dumb things like I did. This is coming from my own mistakes and how I learned from them, so hopefully to prevent you guys from making the same mistakes if you're getting into it or if you haven't played Torchlight Infinite. So let's talk about the randomness of the loot, which loot comes in 5 different rarities, common loot all the way to legendary loot. Due to how random Torchlight Infinite is, you do not need to actually use weapon specifics to your character class, but there is a caveat which I will explain later in the video. But for example, if you're a mage character, like my character Hyuga, you can use daggers and shields instead of just wands and etc. As your loot will be based in stats for what exactly works for your build and the actual 2 ratings, which is the damage and survival percentages. However, there are some weapons you probably wouldn't want to use as the stats will be RNG to work with that class, but early on you can use daggers and shields and mages as mages and hammers if you're a gamma, which is also another mage, and so on and so forth. But as you level up more and more, the higher the rarity items will be, which will specifically work for that class. This just shows how random this game can be with its loot system. It either works with you or against you. In some cases, like I got a random drop of legendary gear that I can use, but it wouldn't fit my build, as I can see working with the warrior class a bit more than my mage class with Hyuga. And to get the absolute most benefit from your class, you can actually use loot that is boosted for whatever main stat from your talent tree. So my major stat is focusing on intelligence, so I'll make sure to boost up on enough intelligence equipment. As you obtain more loot throughout your adventure, you'll see that each loot comes with different stats, with the different priority stats like dexterity, strength, and everything else that goes with that, which will completely change how each equipment actually works for your build. So another thing that throws an entire wrench into the plans of looting is the corrosion system. Now, what is corrosion? It's essentially, after completing the different Dark Surge events, which just got recently added into the game as of the 2nd closed beta, you'll be able to meet Xenolf the Lightless, and he will give you a free corrosion, which has 5 different ways of changing how whatever loot you put into it, how it works. So there are 5 ways of corrosion, which is mutation, which has a 70% chance to add a random stat, chaos, which has a 10% chance to randomize your stats, haughty has a 10% chance to upgrade a stat of up to 1 to 2 ranks, and void, which just has a 10% chance to simply just put your gear into the corrosion state, and last but not least, the defilement, which can upgrade your stats by 2 and can help you surpass tier 1 base gear. And once your gear is corroded, it cannot be corroded again, and it will consume double your materials during the crafting process. You can corrode your gear and help its stats, or completely rearrange the stats by RNG, or get a whole new set of stats. Now, the major next part that I want to talk about when it comes to the looting system in Torchlight Infinite is that, god damn, there could be too much loot. Now, hear me out. Throughout your time playing Torchlight Infinite, you will notice your bag will be full most of the time, or all the times, which in my case, it was every time. You either grab so much loot, and in my case, I destroyed them without knowing what would be the usage of having so much loot. But then I did a little bit of extra digging, and I was like, oh, I am dumb. I can actually do a lot with this. So instead of destroying them, you can go to the trader and sell your loot to them and gain flame dust, or you could go through the auction house, which allows for trading amongst others. Which that part I will actually cover in a future video as part of my Torchlight series, so stay tuned on the channel as I will try to cover all parts of the Torchlight as much as I can. Now, looting is probably the most integral part of Torchlight, and it's one of the things that make Torchlight shine as a little ARPG. But the major part that makes Torchlight Infinite a bit overwhelming can be the abundance of loot. And yes, there can be a bit of too much loot at once over my time of playing through the multiple closed betas, and including the third closed beta test right now. I notice how there's so much loot that will fill your bag. You have to buy bag space or sell or trade it, which I can see why, because the team is more than likely expecting players to know the trifecta of this early on. But for some people who don't know, they'll either not grab all the loot and miss out on finding the best loot for your specific build, and sometimes loot isn't even as necessary. As I noted earlier in the video, that earlier levels you'll come across weapons that don't fit your character build, but the stats does, and you will use that. And once I started reaching level 20, that kind of threw that out the ballpark. Once I noticed that those same weapons that I were using were starting to get sort of outdated with my character class, and it was not working in my favor. So my biggest takeaway today for players is to be mindful of what you loot. Don't fully upgrade any loot since it will be replaced, and save all the loot that you can so you can trade in an auction house and or break it out into flame dust. And of course, customize your builds as much as possible, but use the gear that scales your primary stat that you're using in the talent tree. Have fun and create as many builds as you can and explore the different options Torchlight offers you. And if you want to check out more Torchlight Infinite content, then go check out my playlist at the end card over there. And it's been your host KSDTV, here at Chaotic Inc., signing out. Peace.
I make a manifest. I don't sleep, that's so weak, don't plan to rest. I'm from a hood where you die if you don't pack a vest. No culinary degrees, but whipping crack the best. Chefing, hard times taught lessons. Praying every night to pull up in park Benzes. What's my home is what you call trenches. You wouldn't last a day seeing life through all lenses. It's all tension, no sun, and rain and plenty. Full-time job, still can never make a penny.